What a week we are embarking on. It's rivalry week. It's Thanksgiving. There's some big-time college basketball matchups coming. You know, we got a bunch of the tournaments, Maui Invitational, all that stuff. NFL's rocking and rolling. Man, I tell you what, somewhere George Washington is.
He's smiling.
He's smiling. Speaking about smiling, before we get into today's show, we got a loaded show. We're going to give you our top 12. We're going to go over that in a minute. I want to play this clip. You know, we get asked all the time. You know, I get asked, you know, what is the part you miss the most about coaching? And I'm going to give you my answer. But I want to play this clip from Rhett Lashlee talking about this SMU team real quick. Let's go and play this.
Like, I had this thought Friday, like, I'm going to miss a lot of these guys. Like, it's a fun group, man. They love playing together. They love playing for each other. They love playing for SMU. They don't care who gets the credit. And I think that's why they win. And it's special. And so I'm just a lucky guy who gets to be their coach.
You know, my answer is, you know, one of the things I miss the most are the games, right? It's just the adrenaline. It's unmatched. If you've ever been that close to it, you understand exactly what I'm saying. Imagine, you know, as a fan, the adrenaline you feel, which is a lot of what we feel now, times about 10 because you were part of, you know, what went into the soil to see what's going to grow out of it. And nobody really knows. But the part that he's talking about, too, is equally as much as the games, and you guys know this as much as anybody, even through the bad times, it's the relationships, because you all grind, right? You work, the hours are crazy, especially the higher level you go, the more pressure there is on you. But it's those relationships. That's what I look back, even now. And I was in it for about 10 years, and I've been out of it for a while. I still get texts from guys that are recruited and coached that are like, hey, coach, just want to let you know I'm getting married, or we're having a baby, or, you know, my dad's sick and you know, I just want to keep you updated because you recruit the whole family. Those are the things that outside of just the actual game and the competitive nature of you as a person, that's what makes this sport so great. And I agree with what Rhett Lashlee says. It helps with the winning, but even coming off a devastating loss, like it's showing up on Sunday and showing up on Monday and you know, being able to crack a joke and everybody laugh and kind of ease the tension. But it's those relationships through all that time spent together, Coney, that, you know, to me is what I miss the most.
Well, that passion right there is one area where college football still has a leg up on the NFL. You never see an NFL coach do that, right? And so I'm hoping that as the sport becomes more national, becomes more corporate, that we don't lose that passion right there. Don't look now, boys. SMU might win that conference.
Listen, you ain't got to explain it to me. All right, Alabama and Ole Miss fall out of the top 10 after a chaotic weekend of college football. We'll give you our top 12. Texas heads to College Station Saturday to take on the Aggies in a massive matchup. And Clemson takes on arch rival South Carolina in a ranked game with big consequences. I'm Jake Crain, and welcome to Crain & Company. Buckle up, buckaroos. If you were born into a college football-loving family, you remember the stories your grandfather or father used to tell you about your favorite team's most memorable games in the good old days. For me, it was Punt Bama Punt, and my grandson will hear about the Kick Six and the Prayer and Jordan Hare, and every team has them, and that is exactly what the game against Texas means for Texas A&M fans this weekend. And the 93 Cotton Bowl was big, so was the Sugar Bowl in 1940, but if we're being honest, this is the most generational game that A&M has played in my lifetime. Just look at what's at stake. First off, you're playing against a huge rival in Texas, finally, after a long hiatus. You have a chance to clinch your first ever SEC championship game berth. You also have an opportunity to clinch your first ever college football playoff berth if you win out, including the SEC championship, and you get to do it at home, in your backyard. If you lose, it relegates you back to the butt of the joke at 8-4. Even though we all know Mike Elko is building this thing to last, he's doing it the right way. A&M is just getting started. But just by appearing in the SEC championship game, You get somewhat of a monkey off your back, and it shows future recruits that you can actually get there. It's a huge game for Texas, but they've been more relevant in the championship space more recently. I can still see Vince Young running past USC and Colt McCoy getting hurt against Alabama. So to the A&M fans out there, this is your biggest chance since your grandfather bounced you on his knee, telling you stories of the good old days about the good old boys. It's time to have your generational moment so you can tell your grandkids about the time the almighty Texas fell to a new coach and how that turned the program around and you started talking titles. Former Michigan quarterback David Cohn, my brother, former Western State, Colorado wide receiver Blaine Crain, work in the chat. And David, I think there are going to be a lot more big-time games in this Mike Elko tenure. Mm-hmm. We all liked the hire when it was made. But how about year one, having this opportunity, at least just from your connection? You were born in the state of Georgia, man. I was born in the state of Alabama. You understand it, even though A&M hasn't been in the SEC as long as the Auburn or the Georgias. But when you look at what's at stake in this game and what A&M could possibly do, and we're going to break down the game, but this is massive, man. I don't know how does it get bigger than this outside of hosting a playoff game?
Well,
I don't know.
Imagine not playing your in-state rival for 13 seasons, and you didn't want them to come into the conference. Now they're in the conference, and you get them at home in College Station, last game of the year, after your baseball coach left to go to the other school, and now you get them at home where the winner gets to go play for the SEC championship. I mean, that is the stuff that Magic is made out of. And just think about this right here. You know, we're talking about the 12-team playoff and these games being just incredibly entertaining down the stretch of the season here. Texas A&M loses this, they're 8-4. They probably go play in the Music City Bowl, right? They win this, they could go to the SEC championship game and get a first-round bye. I think that's fascinating here as we enter rivalry week. Just in terms of the game stats right now, Texas -6 on the road. That's the line as we sit here now, opened at 5.5. 48.5 on the over and under. Is Texas A&M's defense going to be able to get after Quinn Ewers? And we're going to talk about Quinn Ewers' health in just a little bit. Are they going to be able to get after him better than they were able to get after Peyton Thorne and Auburn?
I think they will. Obviously, being at home helps. And, you know, we talked about the Auburn game and what Auburn was able to do. Not that A&M didn't take them seriously, but now it truly is life or death for the season. Now it truly is the pride of us, not as the state school, quote-unquote state school, going up against big, bad, almighty Texas. And I want to get down to some of the keys, I think, and we want in the chat, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We appreciate everybody being here. The phone lines are going to open at 2:45 p.m. Central, 1-855-236-3228. But Blaine, I want to kick it over to you because, you know, we're raised in a rivalry where Auburn isn't Alabama. Alabama is the state's named they're named after the state, right? That's why I use the term like state school. I know A&M's got money, Auburn's got money, so I can kind of align myself more with the A&M sentiment going into this game. How many times do you think A&M fans have sat there over the years that we've watched college football and they've watched Texas do their thing? You know, they even left the Big 12 to come to the SEC to cause that separation and make themselves even more relevant. But now it's not about you having no control over it. You have control over all of it. You are 4 quarters away from changing this thing forever. And I think you know what I'm saying there.
There's something about it, right? You can kind of see the similarities, to me at least, kind of the Auburn, Alabama, the A&M, Texas, the little brother syndrome. You know, and to me, I'm a little brother myself. I've always wanted to do better than what? You, right? This is the way I'm built. It's the way I was raised in a competitive family. But this is so new to me, to be honest. I don't know how much hate is between Texas A&M and Texas. I really don't. I can see it in the chat already, which is refreshing. But this is going to be super interesting game. And right now, well, I mean, Texas A&M, you have everything in front of you. And really, I mean, you have nothing to lose in this game. So, I mean, if it's me and I'm A&M, man, I'm full go 100%. Just whatever you got to do to win this football game. But this rivalry feels so new and so fresh. And for me, I love it.
Well, this is one of the ones I circled when it was announced that Texas was coming into the SEC. Because everybody's talking about, we're going to lose this kind of peripheral rivalry and this, but we're also going to create one. What did Isaac Newton say? Mass can neither be created nor destroyed, whatever. But I think in this conference, with some of these new matchups that we're going to get, we are going to see old rivalries rehashed, new rivalries coming out of nowhere, and this one just being reinvigorated is fascinating. Now, as far as what's going to go on in this game, and I want to start off by talking about the Texas A&M defense against the Texas offense. And I don't think we can start unless we acknowledge what you were talking about with Quinn Ewers and the injury. And if you don't know, Quinn Ewers had a precautionary MRI. Guys get precautionary MRIs all the time. He's going to play in the game. Every report that I've seen is he is going to play in the game. But if that ankle is tender and he can't move, that is going to affect his ability to do what we've seen Carson Beck and some of these other quarterbacks that may not be runners, but they run well enough to maybe extend some drives, or if they catch you in man coverage, be able to take off and get that 3rd and 6. If he's not able to do that, and then he's not able to move around in the pocket efficiently and get his back half into throws, that's when the ball floats. That's when the ball lowers and gets tipped. So it could have a big effect. If I'm Mike Elko and I am this A&M defense, knowing that Quinn's a little bit beat up, I don't have to go out there and force the action early if it's me. I'm going to give you my base stuff. Now, on 3rd and passing, will you bring some exotics? Will you show it, bring it, show it, not bring it? Yes. But I think this Texas A&M front 7, despite what happened against Auburn, because I just think they're going into this game different, man. They're going into this game different. It's different when your life's on the line. I think Texas A&M's strength is in that front 7. I know the Texas offensive line's pretty daggum good, but I don't think they have to come here, and we always talk about, manufacturing pressure or funneling resources from other places to create havoc plays. I don't think A&M has to do that. And if Quinn Ewers can't get out of that pocket and they can collapse that pocket, I wonder how much of an effect that has as an offensive play caller if I'm calling Klein with Marcel Reed. David, you see?
No doubt. I mean, when we see Texas struggle, it's because other defenses get after Quinn
Georgia.
Ewers. And the only time they bounced back really from that was when Oklahoma sacked him on the first play of the game. Oklahoma was up in the first quarter. Texas comes back and win. And look, after Oklahoma beat Alabama this weekend, that's a little bit less surprising. My question for you right now is: Are you ready to make a prediction? And how do you feel about the -6?
I'm not. Look, I would buy that thing. I think it's just going to go down, especially with the injury. So right now, if I was going to take it, I would buy it up to +7.5 and go ahead and take A&M there. I'm not fully ready to make a prediction, but I'll go ahead and tell you I'm leaning toward Texas A&M a little bit.
How about you?
If I had to bet it, I need more clarity on Quinn Ewers' injury.
You're not going to get it.
But if Quinn looks like Quinn, I would take Texas A&M.
Hold on. Sark's calling.
Yeah.
Well, if Quinn looks like Quinn, I would take Texas.
Well, as far as and I don't want special teams to get lost in the wash here either. We got 2 pretty daggum good kickers with the Auburn kid and then Bond from A&M. The punting game and field position is going to be massive. But if you're Colin Klein and you're this A&M offense, and I just talked about seeing how Texas is offensively and how Quinn is, and that being able to maybe dictate how you call plays. I just feel like, we talk about, as a freshman quarterback, you probably need to be more conservative. Marcel Reed isn't a freshman anymore. You've gone on the road in multiple environments. You've had success and you've had failures. You've played at home in big environments. So I don't think you put training wheels on Marcel Reed unless it is so obviously blatant that this offense with Quinn Ewers, that they maybe even have to make a quarterback change if he gets hits or something with Arch Manning, and then see how conservative Sark is regardless of what he says. But with Marcel Reed, the running element. Because if you look in that Auburn game, A&M went with a lot of weird personnel groupings. They tried to catch Auburn in nickel a lot. And some of the stuff was working, right? I'm interested to see if that was something that they knew was going to be effective and they wanted to put on film, right, to make Texas have to prepare for maybe some funky personnels and who's in where and in what down and distance. But I don't think you can put handcuffs on Marcel Reed. You got to try and run him against this Texas defense, right, to open other things up. Because if it turns into, no, we're in 3rd and 6, we're in 3rd and 7, we're in 3rd and 8, and Marcel Reed's having to throw to consistently beat this Texas defense, you're going to be in trouble. But even with the injuries, Texas and A&M has had at running back, because there's been multiple. I think you got to run Marcel Reed like there is no tomorrow, because, David, there isn't a tomorrow if you don't win this game.
2 more questions for you guys on this game here. I predicted before the season that the SEC would get 4 teams into the college football playoff. A lot of people came on the show. They predicted 5. Some even predicted 6. After this weekend, with Alabama going down and Ole Miss going down, there's some legitimate concern from SEC fans that maybe only 3 teams get in, which kind of seems unfathomable. My first of the 2 questions here is: the best chance for the SEC to still get 4 teams in, is that for Texas A&M to win this game, make Texas 10-2, okay? Texas A&M goes and plays Georgia. Georgia's already slated to play the winner of this football game, and just hope that even if Texas A&M loses the conference game and that gives them a 4th loss, that losing the SEC championship wouldn't keep them out like some people are concerned, and that Texas at 10-2 would still get in. Or go ahead and let Texas win this game, knock A&M out, and hope that like Ole Miss or Alabama can sort of backdoor in the rankings.
Well, to me, if you're going for how can the SEC get the most teams in, I think A&M has to win out. I think they have to win this game and win the SEC championship game to get in, because that's the only thing that's going to guarantee a 3-loss team gets in. And think about
Georgia
this.
had 3 losses.
Yeah,
well, Georgia had 3 losses. But
Georgia would have 3, but it would be in the conference championship game. A loss in the
what I'm
conference
saying.
championship game for A&M would be the 4th. I don't think you can put him in, and I think the committee would be right not to put him in with a 4th loss. So to me, I've got a pretty good idea, regardless of, we're going to talk about this with the top 12. I think Texas is in even if they lose this game. After what happened last weekend. Same reason why I think Indiana is still going to be in with what happened last weekend. I don't want to put the cart ahead of the horse there. But if A&M wins this game, wins the SEC championship, obviously they are in. I think Texas is going to be in, right? You look at Georgia. Even if Georgia were to go into the SEC championship game and lose, a 10-3 Georgia with the wins that they have, I think is going to get in. And then you have Tennessee, right, which would be the 4th team. So I think the best bet, if you're Greg Sankey, what you're asking me is, what does Greg Sankey need to have at? That's really what you're asking me. Greg Sankey needs A&M to win 2 games in a row, go to the college football playoff as one of the top 4 seeds, get the bye, which would be incredibly ironic, considering they would be a 3-loss team when you look at Tennessee. Then obviously, you look at Texas with the 2, even though they would have beaten Texas, and then Georgia with the 3rd loss in the conference championship. That is the only way I think the SEC gets 4 in.
Okay, so my second question for you both here, because you said you think Texas is in even at 10-2, which I agree, and I've been saying that for a few weeks now. But with the Quinn Ewers even possible injury, let's put it in quotes, we have to talk about this aspect of it, which is a quarterback being injured. And we've talked about this hypothetically before the season, because he hasn't gone through a full season without getting injured. If Texas is sitting there at 10-2 or 11-1 or 11-2 and they lose the conference championship game and Quinn Ewers is hurt and he can't play in the college football playoff, the committee's not leaving out Texas with Arch Manning stepping in,
chance.
no matter if Arch isn't as good or doesn't give Texas as good of a chance. But the whole world's talking about it today because of what happened last year with Florida State. Wouldn't it at least be refreshing to see the committee have to step forward and at least acknowledge, no, we're not gonna leave Texas out?
Well, it's yeah. Go ahead, go ahead, Blaine.
Well, I think if the backup quarterback for Texas was named Brock Glenn, then yeah, they wouldn't get in the playoffs.
So is it just a name thing, or are you saying if he played like Brock Glenn too?
Well, I mean, Florida State won all those football games.
Yeah, Florida State, those two things are not equal.
And I know one game he had 55 passing yards.
But they won.
And they still won. So at the end of the day, a W's a W. So yeah, I think Arch Manning, being Arch Manning, does what? Brings even more tickets and ratings, and the committee likes what? Both those things.
Yeah, look, the headline, Texas left out because Manning is quarterback, does not exist in this realm. In no way. You can agree with it or disagree with it, but I think we can agree that there is no way that the committee would. They may be hoping that Arch Manning starts in the college football playoff, just because that narrative would be insane. Can you imagine if he wins the first game as a quarterback there? So you might as well, Florida State fans, it sucks. I am totally with you. It sucks. But I think Texas, regardless, if they lose this game against A&M, if Quinn Ewers gets hurt and can't play the rest of the year against A&M and they lose, or if they go to the conference championship game and lose it and Quinn Ewers gets hurt, Texas, I think, is in the college football.
It's also worth remembering Steve Sarkisian pulled Quinn Ewers out in the first half against Georgia when he was struggling. Put in
Ford Manning.
He did put Quinn Ewers back in the second half. I'm just saying that sort of hurts the argument that your backup isn't competent enough to go forward in the college football playoff.
No, with that,
I never liked the argument last year, and we talked about that play.
Yeah, with that, I'm just wondering who in this Texas A&M game, and I want to get to the chat here in a second. I'm just the line of scrimmage, and we talk about this all the time because you guys know as well as we do, it's the most important part of any team is the line of scrimmage. It's not just who can stop the run. It is the pass rush and who is going to be willing to maybe pitch backwards a little bit. We always talk about Steve Sarkisian, and what makes him so dangerous in the pass game is, for, excuse my language, the way he bastardizes things. They run routes and concepts that go against what you are taught as a DB when it comes to space and leverage, which is smart. It's the best way to go about it. But I think Colin Klein is kind of a little bit of that version in the quarterback run game with the way he operates out of 11 and 12, and he can go the lighter personnels and have good adjustments in the run game. He can go heavier personnels and have good adjustments in the run game. But also the tight end here, the Helm kid from Texas, is a really, really good player. I think he is one of the most underrated players in the whole sport of college football.
He leads Texas in receiving.
He is, and in the red zone, when it's getting thick, like it's just, who's got the balls on 4th and run to run the play action and hit the tight end? Who's got the guts to do it and take the chance? Which coach is going to be the most aggressive from a play calling standpoint? That I do not know, but I cannot wait.
Just quickly, I feel like we talk about Texas A&M defense a lot. I just feel like
Texas got the number one defense.
About Texas's defense enough. I mean, the most points they've given up all year were 30 against Georgia because they were on the field the entire game.
That wasn't on them.
They give up 240 yards a game right now. And one thing they do well is get to the quarterback, and their linebacker play is phenomenal. And I think in a game like this, with all the cross reads, all the different things you have to go through as a linebacker, those positions will be key.
Well, the discipline, the eye discipline is huge. But yeah, Texas having an elite defense. I mean, that's such a baked-in thing. Maybe we don't talk about it enough, but that's one of the reasons we said they were going to be a much more dangerous team than Oklahoma coming into this league year one because of the circumstance on both sides of the line of scrimmage. And I know that Oklahoma's offensive line was a little bit in flux. It was a brand new group they brought into the transfer portal. But make no mistake, what took Texas from Club Med to Judge Dredd was not some cutesy, fancy offense or not some combination they run out of 3x1 or quads or FIB, which is formation of the boundary. It's that they got a bunch of hammerheads in that front seven, and they love going forward. And they lost some guys off the front seven from last year, and they're still hammering people. Why does Steve Sarkisian know that? Because he's been in this league. He's been in the NFL. He knows what makes the money. And I would much rather have a front seven that is elite and an okay back end than an elite back end and an okay front seven, because it's a lot easier to hide the secondary when you're able to get out the quarterback, throw his timing off. So again, that's why I brought up the Marcel Reed running thing. You have got to find a way to elongate this Texas defense and then hit them vertically in the run game. And that's that eye discipline. But guys, we talk about Texas linebackers. A&M's got some cats running around at linebacker as well. I mean, Scooby and these guys can really, really play. So it is a dynamite matchup. I'm just fascinated to see the methodology of each offensive coordinator and the sequencing of the play calling.
All right, Chad, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you donate, it's on topic. It will get read. We're going to start the day off with a $5 donation from Matt M. Appreciate it, Matt. It says, A&M isn't the little brother. They're the slow stepchild. Get these milkman and fake military boys out of here.
Here we go.
Hook 'em by 17.
Phone calls are going to be lit today, buddy. I can already tell you. So if you call in and it's busy, don't worry. We're going to be rolling them every 30 seconds. Hate.
Is it rivalry week?
Hate.
It is. You can feel
a lot of hate this week. Let it consume you.
All right, let's go to Cole. Cole, what's up? It says, Aggies smoked UT. UT hasn't played any winning SEC teams other than Georgia, and they lost. Proof is in the pudding.
The proof's going to be in the pudding on the field on Saturday. I don't want to hear any proof or any pudding until I see what's going on the field on Saturday, because this is the best part about this. We get to see it live and in person, man. We get to see these two teams play each other in the last game of the regular season. One ring to rule them all. And in darkness shall bind them.
Wait, so you're saying that we get a chance to watch all the football games before we have to make like any final decisions on rankings or strength of schedule?
That's exactly
I get to watch all of them first?
You get to watch all of them first.
Man, and here I thought we had to be locked into week 4.
Let's go to Starch Manning. He says, Texas 76 wins, A&M 37 wins in this series. 7 of the last 10 went to Texas, and trust me, the 77th win is on the way, fellas.
We'll see. I just don't think you can rely on 11 years ago to be able to forecast what's going to happen on this one, or however long that break was.
I think it's 13.
In 13 years. I'm just, again, all the talk, it's going to be great. Talk your ish. A&M talk yours. Texas talk yours. But we get to walk it on Saturday, and then we're going to see.
All right, let's go to Horns Down. Appreciate it, guys. He says, even coming off a huge loss last week, I think Mike Elko will have this team prepared to come out early. Definitely won't look the same way. Why do you think Texas A&M looked like that in the first place against Auburn?
Well, I think they were kind of blitzed by Auburn through the air. Mm-hmm. I know that's kind of a contradictory thing to say because A&M is on defense and Auburn's on offense, but I'd have done the same thing. Like, the problem was you busted a couple coverages too now. And then Cam Coleman was just beat a couple of those guys at birth. Sometimes great offense, right? Guys that are just so incredibly talented, they're gonna make a play. But I think A&M was like, we stop the run, we stop Auburn. And there's probably emphasis all week. Stop Jarquez Hunter. He leads the SEC in rushing, basically. You stop him, put it on Peyton Thorne's shoulders, right? But they didn't put into the calculus that Auburn was actually going to go to Cam Coleman a lot. It was Jarquez, Cam, which has been a recipe that Auburn has needed. So by the time A&M adjusted and said, oh my God, this Auburn team has balance this week, we're going to have to attack them evenly, they were able to slow them down in the second half some, and you saw that rear its head, you saw the offense gain confidence, but in a weird way. Because let's real quickly, and I know we got to get to our top 12, but if A&M would have beaten Auburn and then lost to Texas, I don't think A&M's in the playoff. So in a weird way, and I'm not trying to be like Sun Tzu, Art of War here, was what happened against Auburn maybe best case scenario for A&M, because now all week you're upset at the way you played in a big moment. You got your guts ripped out, but Mike Elko, I'm sure he went in that locker room and said, listen, I want you to hurt. This should hurt.
That's why
this is the game we should have won. But we still control our own destiny. Maybe, just maybe, this could have actually, in a weird way, been somewhat of a positive thing if you can spin it the right way, and I know Elko will.
Well, that's why I put Texas A&M in my most consequential college football games remaining. It's not that, you can't go on the road and lose to Auburn or something. It's because I think the implications are even bigger this weekend in terms of still being able to make the SEC championship game. But if you're an Auburn fan listening and you want to hear a breakdown of how Auburn was able to take advantage of Texas A&M against Cover 6, then don't miss tomorrow's show because there's going to be a certain
little huddle up tease there. I love when you foreshadow it.
Quickly, $5 donation from Smokey3. I know we got to move on. He says, I'll drop $100 in the super chat. All right, if A&M wins, but if Texas wins, Jake has to wear overalls with Billy Lucci's face on them.
Look, I love Lucci.
Are you providing the overalls?
It's a yes or no.
Yeah, look, sign me up.
All right, Smokey3.
You got to send them in, though.
Yeah, we're not making.
Yeah, you got to send those. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and Geppetto this thing. You got to make the overalls, and I'll wear them. That'll be. Listen, we lived in Texas. Now we lived in Fort Worth. My dad coached at TCU. I've got no problem with it. I just love that we have this game. And you know what else I love? Delicious coffee. And you know what I love even more than that? Supporting great causes. But what if you could do both? Well, guess what? With Black Rifle Coffee, you can. Black Rifle Coffee, you got tons of good roasts. You have light roast, dark roast. They got an espresso that David liked. What's it called? The Electric Eagle? Electric
Eagle Espresso. Finish that thing off. I'm on Silencer Smooth this week.
God, you go from the Eagle to the Silencer. You just on your Chris Kyle over there. Also, Black Rifle Coffee, every purchase you make helps them further their mission to support veteran and first responder causes. Everything from getting funding and equipment to first responders to helping veterans get medical care. They also got a coffee quiz you can take if you don't know, hey, what flavor or what roast do I need? What flavor do I need? They can help you out there as well. But again, it's fantastic coffee. I drink it literally every morning. Gunship is my favorite. But the biggest thing is every portion of a purchase you make with Black Rifle Coffee, like I said, goes a long way towards giving back to those who give us so much and help serve our nation. So head to blackriflecoffee.com. Use code DailyWire for 20% off America's coffee. That's blackriflecoffee.com. Use code DailyWire. Telling you it's a fantastic product for a fantastic cause. All right, we're going to get to the South Carolina game and the Georgia Tech one, but we got to get into the perfect college football top 12, David. So what we're going to do, I'm going to tell everybody, the way this works, we give you our top 12. Okay, this is not formatted for the college football playoff with the automatic bids, right? That's why you see two Big Ten teams starting us off with Oregon and Ohio State. Then we're going to give you what it would look like in the college football playoff format, because there's a big glaring difference between the two, not just where teams are, but what teams are in. And I'm going to let David explain that. But if you're on audio, I'm going to read you our top 12 as it stands today. Oregon 1, Ohio State 2, Texas 3, Notre Dame 4, Penn State 5, Georgia 6, Tennessee 7, Miami 8, SMU, shout out our boy Rhett Lashlee, 9, Indiana 10, Clemson 11, and Arizona State 12. And David, before, and you do such a good job of helping people decipher kind of how we go about it in our methodology. It's amazing. You put out like a top 5 or something a couple weeks ago, and there's so much changing in college football. You put it out on social media, and some people are like, oh, man, this is great analysis, man. Like, the margin for error in this year's rankings, it's never been thinner. And so much can change by just one team losing. And it's made it a lot of fun, but this is the hardest rankings I think we've ever done over a period of time, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, and I guess the only option to counter what you're talking about is just every single week for us to make our ranking based off how we think it will end at the end of the season, which would force us right now to have to go ahead and say, oh, you know what, we're going to make sure that we think Texas will beat Texas A&M. That's why they're there, right? Like, we're not going into that. We're just saying, hey, this is week 14. After all the craziness and all the chaos that's just happened, here's our ranking right now. A couple things to point out. Let's start with Notre Dame and Penn State. I mean, Penn State gets to make a case, well, we didn't lose to Northern Illinois. Our loss is much better. We lost to the number 2 team in the country at home. But Notre Dame has the case to make that, well, we have the better win going on the road. And
what's more beneficial, or what do you care about more, a quality win or an awful loss? We can get into that argument, but they're literally right next.
And it doesn't matter that much because Notre Dame can't get a first-round bye because they're not in a conference, right? And that closely together, they're not going to be playing each other, and both would host.
And Penn State's not going to get a bye either. They're not playing in the Big Ten championship game, at least.
No. And then that gets us obviously to Indiana. We touched on it a little bit yesterday. I think it's worth revisiting. At the very end of that Indiana game, I watched it with an Indiana fan. I looked over and I said, I don't think they're going to be in my top 12. He said, I agree. They don't look like a top 12 team. Just a few minutes later, Ole Miss loses. Later that evening, Alabama loses. Arizona State upsets BYU. So all of this stuff was happening in real time, and that means they move up a couple spots. How do you feel right now about Indiana at 10?
Do I think that Indiana is a elite team or one of the best teams in the country? No, I don't. But I think there's a certain way, if you're really trying to put the best ranking together, if you out there believe that Indiana shouldn't make the playoff, okay, you can believe that. If you want to think, hey, if Texas loses to A&M and they got 2 losses with no great wins, they shouldn't make the playoff, okay, that's fine to believe that. But then my follow-up question is, but what about what's happened around them? Because you can't just make a ranking based off, I don't think this team needs to be in the playoff, without having the context of Alabama losing for a 3rd loss, Ole Miss losing for a 3rd loss. Because to me, win-loss record matters. And I'm not going to have a conversation with somebody getting over Indiana if they've got 3 losses and Indiana ends up 11-1. Mm-hmm. I think arguing a 9-3 team should get in over an 11-1 Big Ten team. I'm not even going to listen to that argument because win-loss record matters to me. Now, let's say it was Indiana going up against a 10-2 Alabama team. We can have that argument, buddy. Mm-hmm. We can have the argument of 11-1 versus 10-2 because there's that game difference. I have a cutoff. If it's 2 games or more, a 2-game lead or more in the overall win-loss record, outside of that 3-loss team getting an automatic bid, I'm not going to have that conversation. So, do I think, right, that South Carolina is a better team than Indiana right now? If they played on a neutral field, I would bet all my money on South Carolina. But I'm telling you right now, if Indiana goes 11-1, they're getting in the playoff, and they deserve to get in the playoff because they have 1 loss. Now, we're not talking about Boise State or somebody that automatically gets a bid. We can have that argument. But I'm not going to argue an 11-1 team versus a 9-3 team. We can argue 11-1 versus 10-2 all day. But my biggest point is, for the people out there that just say, Indiana shouldn't make the playoff, or if Texas loses, they shouldn't make the playoff. Okay, you can believe that, but explain to me who should and why they should after the context of a team getting their 3rd loss. Because it's context around them and what that team has done. Those are the 2 things I put together.
So, Blaine, we talked about, you and I were having a conversation just a week ago and talking about the different point margins for Indiana to lose against the Buckeyes, too, and where would that move them. And here we sit right now. Last week, what was the strength of schedule? Was it 103?
106. It was 106.
After playing the Buckeyes, it's halved. They're in the 50s now, right? And so how do you feel about Indiana at 10 based on
I feel like you have to put them in. You have to put them in. I wonder what their strength of schedule is now.
That's what I'm saying. It's in the 50s.
And they need to learn about their strength of schedule. And some of it's just a one minute game. It's one game that can change an absolute number. So,
that's this year, though. Yeah, that's this year in college football.
And trust me, I know you said no 3-loss team should get in. You don't want to argue it. Trust me, I'm looking at the chat right now, but you're going to have to. But I think Indiana is, you have to put them in the playoff because if you don't, then everything almost just falls apart.
Well, if Indiana loses this weekend in Purdue, put that 9. I will put a 9-3 team over a 10-2 team in the playoff. But what's the cutoff? Mm-hmm. What's the cutoff? Is it? Oh well, look at Kansas.
Auburn.
Yeah, look at Auburn. Well, they're playing better right now. Florida than they have. Why would you not put in a great 8-4 team over an Indiana team that's 11-1? There has to be a cutoff, but you can't have half of it. You can't say Indiana just shouldn't be in the playoff. Now, if South Carolina beats Clemson and Indiana loses, or South Carolina beats Clemson and SMU loses, or South Carolina beats Clemson and Miami loses, I would put South Carolina in over all of them. Yep. But the odds of that happening are not great. You can't just forget losses. I don't care who they're to.
What if South Carolina murders?
It doesn't matter. It depends on what happens around them. Don't lose 3 games.
Yeah, well,
Don't lose 3 games.
Not only did you lose 3 games, but now Alabama and Ole Miss are also 9-3. Well, assuming they finish out that way, ceiling is 9-3, and they both have the head-to-head over you. That's what's tough. You almost wanted those teams to stay at 10-2 so that you could possibly be the only 9-3. Can we just put it in bracket form for 1 second so people can see? Because what's interesting is that Clemson at 11 right there, that goes away.
Clemson would be out.
Even though they weren't 12, because the 12th, see right there, was Arizona State for the first time. And in this scenario, they'd be the highest ranked Big 12
There are only Big 12 teams. So
and again, that's where more stuff's going to happen. We're not necessarily telling you right now that we think Arizona State would win the Big 12, but they're the highest ranked Big 12 team we have right now. So in the 4th spot, and then the Buckeyes would get Boise State.
So if you're on audio, the way it would work in the college football bracket, because this is formatted to what the playoff is you would have in order your top 4 seeds: Oregon 1, Texas 2, Miami 3, Arizona State 4. Those would be the top 4 teams. They would get the bye. Then you would have your 5-12 matchup, or your 5 group of 5 versus group of 5 matchup, Ohio State versus Boise. Notre Dame and Indiana, what a battle for the state of Indiana that would be at the 6-11. Penn State hosting SMU, and then Georgia hosting Tennessee. And surprise, surprise, the winner of that gets Oregon. That would be an absolutely incredible. It's going to be incredible either way.
Yeah, I will
Ohio
say one
State,
thing,
Boise State should be a great game.
Oh, yeah, Ohio
say
State
one
would
thing.
beat Boise State by 40. They would name their score. I'm sorry, you could have 3 Ashton Genties, it ain't going to save you.
I will say this, of all the weeks that we've done this, with the potential matchups, as great as the hypotheticals have been, I'm less excited about these possible matchups than I have been in weeks past. And I think that that speaks to some of the SEC fans' frustration. Like, I do want to see Alabama go on the road and play Notre Dame. Like, how great would that be? I do want to see, like, Indiana have to go on the road and play in Knoxville. But in this particular scenario, keep in mind, we didn't do it based off what the matchups would be, so we can't help that Georgia and Tennessee have already played once. Again, I'm not panicking about it. There's still a week to go, plus conference championships.
Yeah, so, and I'm sure there's, and we're going to get to the chat in 1 second, I'm sure there's people in the chat that are like, well, you know, South Carolina would be favored by 12 points over Indiana neutral site. Okay, I agree with you. I agree with you. But if that's the only thing you go off of, if that's it, then why even play the season? What are we doing?
Alabama was just favored double-digit points against us.
Yeah, like you can't, and that would be thinking that no upsets ever happen. Like you can't, again, you can be a fan short for fanatical, it's whatever. But win-loss record has to matter, especially, guys, we are talking about a Big Ten team and an SEC team. We are not talking about an SEC team and a Sun Belt team. We are not even talking about an SEC team and a Big 12 or an ACC team. At some point, win-loss record has to go into the formula, along with the, well, this team is better than that team, or this team is playing better than the other team right now. So let's go ahead and get to the chat and hear everybody scream.
All right, let's go to Karalvis. What's up, man? He says, Indiana and ASU are fraudulent for sure. They would get blown out by 90% of other teams on this. I don't even know why they would be in.
And Arizona State may not make it in. They are most likely right now. I just was doing this looking this up with Ross Dellinger's tweet. Arizona State is most likely going to make the Big 12 championship game. But there is a scenario, a really weird scenario, where they don't even make it based off other wins in the conference and strength of schedule.
Yeah, and remember, if you donate, it's on topic, it will get read.
All right, let's go to Travis Singleton. He says, losses have to matter. Georgia ahead of Miami, fine. But Tennessee, no. And I don't want to hear about hypothetical neutral field / hypothetical spread.
Why can I argue Tennessee being ahead of Miami, though? Because there's not that 2-game difference in between them. Mm-hmm. Miami's lost 1 game. Tennessee has lost 2. We can have that argument. It's just like Tennessee. Why is Tennessee over Indiana? Right? Because that's a 10-2 team and a possible 11-1 team. Right? At least we can have that argument. We may not agree. And go back to our rankings, please. Go back to the first graphic. So we can have that argument, but I'm not going to have the 11-1 Big Ten team deserves to be out to the 9-3 other team. I'm not going to have that argument because you are basically saying the season doesn't matter. You're saying the season doesn't matter at all, and I'm not going to do that. I don't care what FanDuel says. I don't care what DraftKings says, and it's not their fault. They got to put out lines, but there has to be a balance of what goes into a ranking.
And for his comment, it would be a moot point here. I mean, let's just say we flip Miami and put him at 7 and put Tennessee at 8. Miami hasn't moved anywhere once the seating gets filled out.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Let's go to a $5 donation from Garrett Cole. What's up, man? Keep slinging that pill. He says, biggest game in Gamecock history this weekend. Mm-hmm. If we win against the top 15 Clemson, there is no way we get left out.
You keep trying to manifest it. I totally am down with trying to manifest it. You know, I wrote this down before the show, and, you know, we have that cool segment. We're going to do it again this week, like what each team needs. But I just wrote down a couple things. If you're a South Carolina fan, what you would want to have happen this weekend, right? You need A&M to lose. A&M loses, that's 4 losses. They're out. You jump A&M. You need Bama and Ole Miss probably to lose. That gives them 4 losses. You lose the head-to-head to Bama and Ole Miss, right? But that gets them out of the way. You'd love it if Notre Dame were to win. You need that loss to look as good as possible. They're probably going to be in, even if they go 10-2 with the way the committee works. I don't agree with it, but I think they would probably err on the side of getting Notre Dame in. So if you're an A&M fan, I think at this point you just keep rooting for Notre Dame after what they did to Army because it makes you, if you're a South Carolina fan, you're rooting for Notre Dame to lose. I'm sorry, he's got A&M stuck in my head. And then you want Penn State to lose as well, I think, if you're a South Carolina fan. Because now, why? The argument you can have with 9-3 and 10-2 is a lot better than the argument you can have with 11-1. You need Indiana to lose. So I know that's a lot, but if you're a South Carolina fan, that's what you need to have happen. The Notre Dame loss as well. I misspoke. I was thinking about A&M. I got both those teams in my head. That would give Notre Dame 2 losses, right? And if you're a South Carolina fan, you don't lose the tiebreaker head-to-head like A&M did to Notre Dame early in the year. And I can sit here and have a comparison and say, hey, a 9-3 South Carolina team with a big win over Clemson, I could see them getting ahead of Notre Dame. So if you're a South Carolina fan, that's what I think you need.
Well, the thing you need more than anything is to beat Clemson, right? And so let's go ahead and preview that game, because right now Clemson is favored -2.5 at home, the over-under 49.5. This is another great example of where we're talking about, like, this is a rivalry game. This already means the most to South Carolina and Clemson for their whole season. But for the rest of the country, now there's even more intrigue because of an expanded playoff.
Do you think South Carolina is a more physical team than Clemson? Am I the only one that thinks that between us three? I think South Carolina may be more physical than Clemson overall. I'm talking about on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're different. I think the way they operate on offense is different. I think South Carolina's a little bit more downhill than Clemson, especially with Rocket Sanders and Lenoris. I think Lenoris runs a lot more than Cade.
He does, but Cade still can run. I think they're different style runners. Yeah. But when I look at South Carolina's defense and how athletic and physical they are, I don't think Cade Klubnik is outrunning South Carolina the way he's outrunning Pittsburgh. I don't think he's outrunning this defense sideline to sideline. And Cade Klubnik can beat you from the pocket. And we've seen these young wide receivers, and we know Brian Stool at tight end is a really good player for Clemson. We've seen this young wide receiver group grow up, and Clemson being able to find guys, right, that can make plays and one-on-one on the outside. That was our biggest argument against Clemson the past couple of years. They had to kind of get their feet wet against Georgia to start the year, but Clemson can do it. Just something about me, man. Something about me inside is telling me South Carolina wins this game. Because I think they played average against Missouri and were able to win it. And Lenoris Sellers, we talk about DJ Lagway, and we should.
Reptar.
We talk about Nico, and we should. Lenoris Sellers is huge, bro.
Yeah.
If anybody can shake off a tackle from this very talented Clemson front seven, it's this guy. But where does South Carolina have the biggest advantage to me? It's in the havoc plays. When Clemson has havoc plays, it's bad for Cade. When Lenoris has a havoc play, it's good for South Carolina. I've seen South Carolina have plays break down and have more success down the field than I've seen Clemson. So even if they get back there, if Lenoris shakes one and gets outside and keeps his eyes down the field, South Carolina, they ripped Kentucky to death with it. I've seen them have more success. They're a great improvisational actor. I don't know if South Carolina is as good as, a method actor, right? Like they're just going to become that and read the script. They're the Ryan Stiles. They're the whose line is it anyway? Oh no, Peter Woods broke through. Lenoris Sellers made a miss, kept his eyes down the field. It turned to a scramble drill and he hits him deep. But the physicality, I think of this front seven on South Carolina's defense, Dylan Stewart, Kennard, these guys. I think they're going to get after Cade Klubnik's ass. Right now, I'm telling you, I'm leaning towards South Carolina.
I don't think Clemson has seen a front like this since Georgia.
And that is why.
And this front might be better than Georgia's.
So do you like the line right now? I was a little surprised to see Clemson as -2.5. Thought it might be a pick'em or maybe even South Carolina favorite.
Well, to me, I think they give you 3 points at home. So I think Vegas is telling you it's a pick'em. I just think they're leaning toward the side of the home team, which makes sense. Yeah. We see that a lot. Or if there may be a team that they think is better going on the road, maybe that road team is -2.5, even though at home they'd be 6.5, 7 points better than the team they're going on the road to play. Who can establish a run game enough to take some pressure off the quarterback and make play action great again? Because I sit here and I talk about this on the radio all the time. And David, you know this better than anybody. You play the position. Nothing is better for pass protection than a good run game. Because it adds balance and versatility to your offense so the defense can't just pin their ears back. And it makes play action slow down those ends. So if it's Maffa on Clemson being able to pop 3.5, 4 yards of carry, and Clemson's living in 2nd and 2, and Garrett Riley can dial something up on 3rd and 1, and they feel that, because confidence isn't just about on 2nd and 1 throwing it deep. It's, hey, man, we're close to midfield. We've been running the ball well. On this 3rd and 1, let's take a shot. Let's go heavy personnel, take a shot of play action, because God forbid it's 4th and 1, we're going to run and get it anyway. There's no worse feeling than not being able to take a shot on 3rd and 1 because you feel like you're going to get stuffed on 4th and 1 if you go for it and run some sort of ISO or gap scheme play. But I think it's a pretty even matchup. I just think South Carolina is more athletic than Clemson. I just really believe that. Can Lenore Sellers continue to write the legend? Can he continue to write the legend? And if he does this and goes into Clemson and wins this game, when they have Cade Klubnik, right? And Clemson seemed to have turned it around, and they've been the big dog, right? Not saying they beat South Carolina every time, but from a championship standpoint, it's been Clemson while South Carolina watched and ate popcorn in the corner. So if Lenore Sellers can go in there and the havoc plays are working out for them, I like South Carolina because of their physicality. I really do.
How you guys like the 49.5 number right now? I mean, we've seen both offenses throughout the season be able to be extremely explosive, but then also both defenses have been able to stifle opponents.
I think that is a perfect number for Vegas to put out. This just, off the cuff, this just feels like a 27-24 game to me, which would give you 51, which, you're one field goal away or one missed extra point from the under hitting and not the over. I'm not in love with the total because I think they're perfect. And I don't want to bet against a perfect number. I would rather just take South Carolina either plus 3.5 bought up or straight on the money line.
Yeah, I would definitely take South Carolina. I think the best bet when it comes to this game is South Carolina money line. But if I'm taking over-under, I would probably bet the under. Because I don't know how much I trust Clemson's offense against a for-real front seven. If you go back and watch that Pittsburgh game, Pittsburgh gave them some problems up front. So if Pittsburgh's giving you problems, I promise you those things down at South Carolina are keeping Dabo up at night.
You want to talk about chaos. South Carolina, remember, could beat Clemson, out-of-conference matchup. Miami could go on the road to Syracuse and lose. Put Clemson in the ACC championship game where they could play SMU, win that game, and possibly get an automatic qualifier spot.
Well, they would do what A&M was doing in the SEC, in the ACC, that 3-loss team. Right now, the probability of that happening in the Big Ten is nil. It's not going to happen. And then in the Big 12, if you want to understand the way the Big 12 tiebreakers work out, just watch the end of Interstellar when he's at the bookshelf and try and explain that to me, and then you'll know.
But one thing for South Carolina, if you were to beat the ACC champ, Clemson at 9-3, and you were to beat the SEC champ, let's just say it's Texas A&M, is that a better case than the case against you with Alabama and Ole Miss having the same record and they have the head-to-head over you?
Well, if you're a South Carolina fan, you want, as crazy as this sounds, you are trying to put yourself in the best light. And sometimes to put yourself in the best light, you have to put your enemy in the best light or hope that what happens to them is good instead of bad. If I'm a South Carolina fan, that's the perfect scenario to me, David. The perfect scenario to me outside of just pure chaos and every team you needing to lose, which is not going to happen. You beat Clemson. Miami loses to Syracuse, which is not out of the realm of possibility by any stretch of the imagination. We're going to get into that game later in the week. And then Clemson wins the ACC, right? And then you have A&M go and win or A&M lose that game to knock them out. Yeah, it may not look great that A&M isn't in the SEC championship game, but having Clemson representing the ACC and getting that bye, I think is something you need to hope for because the margin could be that tight.
Well, I was saying if A&M wins the SEC and you beat them.
See, yeah, but
then
like again,
a head-to-head win over two conference champs.
Yeah,
but I get it. It opens up another. It opens up another spot. Texas. That creates the opportunity for Texas at 10-2 to take the spot
to get in. So I think you lose a spot if A&M does that, and I think if A&M loses, you can gain a spot, and it looks better if Miami loses to Syracuse. Clemson goes to the ACC championship game, beats SMU, gets that top 4 spot. Now, if you're Shane Beamer, you're pointing, saying, "Look, this is." Look who we beat. Like they're representing the ACC. So I think that would be a good thing, but it's hard to cheer on your rival. It's hard to cheer on your rival, but when it's best for you, that's something that you need to do. But speaking about best for you, I want to talk to you a second. Going to get to the chat in 1 second, Blaine. The phone lines are open. We got to get to them quick, too. Let me tell you about Good Ranchers very quickly. The best meat company, best meat delivery service that there is. Trust me, whether it's chicken, whether it's steak, whether it's even seafood, and they're going to give you a free 10-pound spiral cut ham, $110 value, absolutely free when you sign up to one of their premium boxes, the Butcher's Box. It's the best way to go. We know how awesome it is this time of year. Everybody's eating, but you want the most high-quality meat at a great price. There's no antibiotics. There's no hormones pumped into this thing. You can avoid all the chaos at grocery stores. We know how questionable some of those places can be as well when it comes down to giving you the best product. And like I said, you can get a free 10-pound spiral cut ham when you subscribe to any of their boxes. So don't wait on this one. Visit goodranchers.com. Use code BOOSTER. You got to use that to get this ham. Use code BOOSTER at checkout to get your free Thanksgiving ham. Support American farmers. Skip the grocery store chaos and make this holiday truly special. GoodRanchers.com. Use promo code BOOSTER. Quickly to the chat, Blaine.
All right, let's get our $5 donation from the Rickster. What's up, man? He says, Lenore Sellers got hurt in the second half versus LSU.
All right.
Come on, fellas. Let's be real. We actually won that game.
Well, they gave up, what, how many points? 30-something points?
Listen, it's that you can believe that. And deep down, you may be right that they would have won the game, but that doesn't matter. Like you are focusing your energy on the wrong thing. What's done is done. Ole Miss is right now is a better team than Kentucky, I think. But guess what? You lost to them. You got 3 losses. So you're crying over spilt milk, brother. And you may be right. But you need to focus on Clemson. Now it's about putting your best foot forward and hoping some dominoes fall around you, which what a better year to have some dominoes fall around you, man, because they're falling all over the place. Last week, we are so used to last week being a week that really doesn't matter in college football. It went from a week that doesn't matter to being possibly the most consequential weekend of college football that I can remember on top of my mind. That's what this 12-team playoff has gotten us. So don't go out there and protest that you really won the LSU game because they're not overturning it and they don't care. What you need to go out is handle business to get Clemson, let the chips fall where they may, and then try and put your best foot forward.
And honestly, we have seen the committee put the best teams in a lot of times, like literally jump a team like we saw it last year with Alabama and Florida State.
All right, let's go to Spurs Up. He says, come on, fellas. You know what happens when Clemson actually plays a real football team? South Carolina might be the best bet on the board this weekend.
I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. All right, but to me, both of these teams, and you both need help around you, but you're not out of the hunt. Like, think about these matchups we're getting, guys. South Carolina and Clemson, rivalry week, both in the hunt. Need some help, but both in the hunt. Texas A&M, rivalry week. A&M has to win out. Texas may be able to get away, but they don't want to leave anything for chance, right? I mean, even Miami-Syracuse is super duper important this weekend. It is just an absolutely magical time in college football, and to have it line up with rivalries, man, it's like the best Iron Bowls we ever get. Or when Auburn and Alabama are both good, and there's consequences to who loses that game. It elevates it even higher. I'm so glad we get it.
Let's go to Dabo's cousin. What's up, man? He says, what does Cade Klubnik have to do to win this football game?
He's got to make the right decision with the RPO, and that's what he's done a much better job this year. And I want to give Garrett Riley some credit. You know, we bashed him last year, including after the Duke game. Like every time he get inside the 7, he would just run zone read or the RPO, and it was putting Cade in a bad position because everything is more congested and it happens a little bit faster. Cade has grown up more, but you know what I see Clemson do more now when they get inside the 5, David? They turn around and they hand the ball off to Maffa. Or they just give him the zone read option without the RPO attached to it. Or they line up and say, we're going power read, or we're going Q power. Not that Cade can't think through it, but there's a lot easier to operate the RPO when you have space. And in the red zone, you don't have a ton of space. So I think they've made a good adjustment. And then also, he's got help around him. So he needs to understand that he doesn't have to go out there, and Lenore needs to do the same thing. You don't have to be the hero every play. If it's a simple throw to make to Briningstool to get you in 2nd and 5, make the simple throw. If it's to Wesco or any of these guys on the outside and you like the matchup, put the ball up and let them go hunt. Because that quick passing game, you want to talk about a way to slow down this pass rush for South Carolina? Supplement some of that early run game with the quick pass game. Shoot the bubbles out there. Throw the hitches. Throw the slants. Throw the snags. Because I don't think you're going to have time to let mesh develop all night or let Poco develop down the field. Slow them down early, heat them up downfield late. I think that is the formula for Clemson.
What's Poco, Jake?
Post corner.
There you go. All right, let's go to JC. What's up, man? If Clemson loses to South Carolina and then gets to the ACC championship game and beat SMU, I don't think they'll get in over a 12-1 Boise State or an 11-2 Tulane.
Oh, they will. But trust me, they will. They'll 100% get in. Now, they may not get in the top 4. We can have that conversation. But they're going to get in.
Let's go to LM12. What's up, man? He says, does Rocket Sanders needs to have over 100-plus rushing yards for South Carolina to win this game?
I don't think he has to, but you know, it would help. Again, when you have a quarterback like Lenoris Sellers, that is a true threat to run the ball. To me, it's not about how many rushing yards Rocket Sanders is going to get because Clemson isn't going to overplay it either way. All right, they're going to say, we realize both these guys can run. All right, we're not going to take chances. It's not like Jared Stidham's the quarterback running the zone read where you're like, hey, listen, we're going to scope the back. The quarterback isn't keeping it. I saw Jared Stidham keep the zone read one time, and Alabama was so shocked he scored from like 25 yards out. It took an hour and a half. But like with these guys, Clemson is going to play you even. So to me, it's a balance of it. I would rather have Rocket Sanders get 80 yards and Lenoris Sellers get 75 yards than Rocket Sanders get 105 yards and Lenoris Sellers have 12 yards rushing. To me, it's a balance when you're running this type of action. What I want to see from South Carolina, and listen to me on this, as a defensive guy, this is what I would just almost throw up before the game hoping they didn't do. Being able to run the zone read action with the orbit motion behind it, being able to run speed option off of it. Because then you're really messing with my numbers. Because now you bring that orbit motion, we may buzz down the other side safety if it's man. You're going to fake the inside handoff, which is going to what? Hold that one side, hold that backside. Then if he keeps it and it turns into a speed option, or after you hit him with the speed option off the zone read, and we'll see if they do it, stalk and go the wide receiver, right? Whether it's on a crack look, which you can't crack, you're really setting a pick now, that crack look and then he goes, or it's just a stalk and go, it is coming. And hell is coming with it. I don't care if you're in zone coverage. I don't care if you're in man coverage. I used to pray to God that we would be in man coverage when they did it. Because at least if you're going to stalk and go me and you're my man, I've got man eyes on you. I don't have zone eyes going Q to 2 trying to feel what's happening.
It's a little bit like how Georgia scored in the low red zone against Tennessee.
Exactly how they did it. It's exactly how they did it.
Be a great low red zone play for them, but really at any point in the field. What I like about the speed option off the orbit motion, it keeps you out of the teeth of that Clemson defense.
It does. It does. You're making them go sideline to sideline. And then guess what? If they start overplaying you sideline to sideline, just give the ball in the zone read. Because it's the same read for Lenoris Sellers. You're still reading that in. You want to give the ball to the back of the zone read. But now you know if I take off, I've got another option. It's an RPO without the pass. It's triple option out of the gun. It's what Army.
Triple option, but sometimes you're saying run speed option off of it, where the first option motion really is just to influence backers, I guess.
Influence backers, and you could give it too. Like it's not like you don't have to give it, but now you're operating on 3 levels, and you're making Clemson tackle in space. And when you got defenses that are really strong in the teeth, as you mentioned, you want to attack them in space.
Let's go to Trey, 1860. What's up, man? He says, guys, I'm starting to get a little bit worried that South Carolina, especially the fans, are looking past this football game and into the playoffs. Beamer has to have these players ready to go and focused on the mission.
Here's the difference. It doesn't matter if the fans are looking ahead. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're looking ahead. Doesn't matter. We have the luxury of looking ahead. You know, we opened the show talking about Rhett Lashlee and that relationship between the guys. Why is that relationship so strong? Because you spend so much time together. Now, this is a rivalry game. All right, the players are not looking past this. This is Lenoris Sellers' first crack at this, dog. This is Dylan Stewart's first crack at this. We're going to talk about this with the Iron Bowl tomorrow, and then Ohio State and Michigan. South Carolina can't afford to look past it, A, because it's a rivalry game, B, because you lose this one, nothing else past it matters. But those guys are in the meeting room and at practice right now. They know this is the last regular season game. There's no opponent to look forward to. There's just an idea. So even if you did look past it, you don't have anybody to hate. You got somebody to hate this week. So the fans can do whatever they want because the fans aren't going to make a tackle. The fans aren't going to throw a pass. The fans aren't going to call a play. It's about those men in that facility getting together and finding a way to go accomplish a goal. And I don't think you have to worry about that at all from the players and the coaches.
$3 donation from Molten Lava. Good to see you in here, man. Who needs this win more, Shane Beamer or Dabo Sweeney?
I think Shane. Not that look, they've been, but to continue this momentum, right? Dabo's going to be at Clemson as long as Dabo wants to be at Clemson. And they seem to have righted the ship a little bit. Now, I know it hasn't been perfect. There are people talking about your methodology in the transfer portal and JUCO guys and this, that, and the other. But South Carolina, Clemson has been built. Clemson is a palace that has been built. You know, you follow the orange brick road, you get to Clemson. South Carolina has been building this palace. And every step they take in this back half of the season, another wing gets built. Oh, we want a bowling alley in here? Oh, man, we want a pool? Oh, man, we want an estate with a pool and a gate? The more wins they rack up this year, the more attractive the place becomes, not only for high school recruits, but for guys in the transfer portal. And with some of the cats they're losing on defense, they're going to need to fill some holes on the ship with the transfer portal, and great players want to go play for great teams. That's why Shane Beamer said what he said in the press conference about that player leaving South Carolina during the offseason, because he didn't think they were going to win. And it's funny now the way it looks. So perception is reality. I think Shane Beamer wants as many stories on this palace as possible. So I'm going to say Shane.
I think it's bigger for Shane Beamer even without that, but I'm so glad you brought up the transfer portal because he utilizes it and recruits it more heavily than Dabo Swinney does. A big win over Clemson right here at the end of the season, even if you don't get in the college football playoff, but you're at least on the bubble. I think there's going to be a lot of attention for recruits coming in from the transfer portal of South Carolina.
Without a doubt. David, you tell me when we're ready to get to calls.
Oh, we're full. We've been
let's go ahead and get to it.
All right, let's start with Jack. Let's get those feet chopping callers. I want to start with Jack in Auburn. First caller of the week. What's going on, brother?
Hey, guys. How y'all doing?
What's up, Jack?
What's up, man?
What's up? So I'm avoiding the Iron Bowl. Hope is brewing, but as Ted Lasso taught us, it is the hope that kills us. However, I want to get to finding my flowers because Jake and I had a little conversation preseason about Lane Kiffin. I don't know if y'all remember this. He has done everything that he can at Ole Miss. Ole Miss has not won anything significant since Johnny Vaughn. It's time for him to move on if he truly wants to take that next level as a championship contender. But I get it. He's talking about Ole Miss. They don't want him to leave. I don't think he's leaving anytime soon. That's just outside looking in.
Well, Jack, let me ask you this. Do you think Ole Miss is better than Kentucky?
Yeah.
Well, then he hasn't done everything he could do at Ole Miss. This is, to me, I'm almost to the point, and Jack, I'm really not disagreeing with you in the sense, and I appreciate your call, buddy. Congrats on the dub last weekend. We really needed that. I'm done talking about Ole Miss and what Ole Miss can or can't do. It's Lane Kiffin. That Ole Miss team should be in the playoff. What would hurt me the most as an Ole Miss fan is they did everything, and you had every advantage this year. You raised the money in the transfer portal to get the players in there. This is the best defense I've seen Ole Miss have in a long time. You had your quarterback. You had your transfer portal wide receivers with Harris and these guys. You had your tight end and Priest Corn. Not only that, you had one of the easier schedules in the SEC. You literally had all this momentum, and guess what? The context around 10-2 would have got you in, and you got your big win over Georgia. But you lost to Kentucky. It's not an Ole Miss problem. I'm done saying that. Ole Miss proved to me as a fan base and as a program that they can do it. It's Lane Kiffin that can't do it because he's too busy running his mouth on Twitter to go beat Kentucky. He's too busy running his mouth about, should we play in the conference? Well, I went to breakfast with some of the other coaches and they said, you got to stop. It's you, dog. Mm-hmm. You know when they say at the table, like if you're not laughing, it's a joke, maybe it's about you, or if you don't get it. I think Lane Kiffin's an unbelievably smart football mind. But I think other things that used to be distractions off the field, now it's what he says in the media. It is a Lane Kiffin problem. It's not an Ole Miss problem. I think the one solace I would take if I was an Ole Miss fan, that they did their part. They showed up and showed out as a fan base. They raised the money to get the guys they needed to get. It was the head coach and his lack of maturity across the board that cost him. Not Jackson Dart, not Walter Nolan Jr. You can't lose to Kentucky. You can't lose. Go lose at LSU. All right. That's Death Valley. That's the number one hardest place to play in the country. The Swamp, with the way Florida's operating right now, I can get it. I can understand you losing that game. But you blew it against Kentucky because you were too worried about social media and not worried about just lining up and playing good. And the quicker I don't know if he'll ever figure it out. I don't know. But it's not about Ole Miss anymore to me. It's about Lane Kiffin.
And as far as taking that next step in his career, let's remember he was the head coach at Tennessee, Southern California, the Oakland Raiders, like he's been there. He's been there. Maybe it's not he has done all he can do for Ole Miss football. Maybe he's done all he can do as a head coach.
More people.
He's a coordinator. He won the national championship.
Like, look, if you want to go on Feinbaum and talk ish, wait till the end of the year. Wait till the end of the year. He's the distraction, and it's got to stop.
Thanks,
Call,
Jack.
man.
Appreciate it. All right, let's go to Andrew in Greenville, South Carolina. Andrew, what's going on?
What's up, boys? Happy Monday to you.
Let's do it.
Great slate of games last weekend. Looking forward to this weekend. Apparently there's another university in the state of South Carolina that isn't Clemson. I tend to forget about that the rest of the year up until this point. But apparently they're coming to town this weekend. What does Clemson have to do this Saturday I know throughout the season there's been things that have gotten better than they were last year. But what does Clemson have to do this weekend to really prove to us, the fan base, and to kind of the college football world as a whole that they are actually a legit program, and they will be for the next little while?
Well, I mean, look, I think Clemson's a legit program. I don't know if maybe I see what you're saying, though, like an elite program like they were. Right? Is that what you're saying? Like to get back to where people feared Clemson the way they used to? Like, hey, they can run with Bama. They can run with Ohio State. Is that what you're asking me, Andrew?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, It seemed like a couple years ago people were scared to play Clemson, and now.
Well, you want to know know why? Because you had Deshaun Watson, you had Trevor Lawrence. You could throw the ball up to Nuke Hopkins. You could throw it up to T. Higgins. You could throw it up to Justin Ross. They haven't had those dynamic playmakers on the outside that are just, forget the play, remember the player. I remember watching Clemson make those plays against Alabama, and I'm like, good God, you know how good you have to be be able to go sky and get that ball over a Patrick Surtain or somebody like that. But then it's also the physicality on the offensive line, I think. And, I know Clemson hasn't been awesome on the offensive line throughout their kind of period of dominance. I would say that was kind of a weakness a little bit at some points. Not that they were bad, but Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson were able to kind of get away with it. It's that physical element of dominance, being able to turn on the TV, look at Clemson and be like, they're just bigger, faster, and better than you are, and they got more dog in them than you do. We haven't seen that at the skill position for Clemson, at least offensively. I mean, y'all still got cats running around on defense that are bad.
I just don't think you can hoard talent like that anymore. Like, same thing with Alabama. Trent Richardson's not going to be your third-string running back anymore. Yeah. Like, go look at the talent Clemson had, not only on the offensive side of the ball, but on the defensive side of the ball.
It's insane.
You're not going to have T. Higgins and Hunter Renfrow and Sammy Watkins. And I know they played all playing in that years of a span. No one will ever be that good again. I really don't think so. No one will be ever be as good as those Alabama teams.
But you got to have one of them.
Yeah, for sure. But no one's ever going to be as good as those Clemson teams. You just can't hoard talent like you used to with the NIL and transfer portal. I just don't think it can happen.
You may be right.
Appreciate it, Andrew. Thanks, man. All right, let's go to Jake in Birmingham, Alabama. Jake, what's going on?
The ham.
Yo, what's up? Sorry. That was my first time rushing the field. I was at Auburn, and I know we're all hyped about the football, but I was going to ask about how you're feeling about Maui and the basketball game, how we're doing in basketball, and also
here we go, Jake.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's where I'm at. Big one against Iowa State tonight. Here's what I like, and I came out last year and I was very critical of what Auburn has done in the NCAA tournament the past couple years because Bruce Pearl has built the standard so high at Auburn. And it's a compliment to them. Now, they got pissed off, but I don't care. It's not my job to make you happy. It's my job to tell you what I think. What I love about this team is we talk about balance, right, in football a lot. We talk about versatility in football a lot. Teams that can win in multiple ways. When I look at Auburn's roster, let me ask you this, Jake. What are they bad at? Or what do they not have? Exactly. So they don't need him. They got Jedi Broom, who may win Player of the Year, right? So you got Chaney Johnson, a big that can move. Jedi Broom, maybe the best big in the country. Dylan Cardwell, absolute stud. I think he's the top 10 center in the country overall. I know offensively it isn't sexy, but it works. And then you got more shooters than they had out in front of the OK Corral back in the day in the Wild West. And Auburn is built on defense. They're long, they're strong, and they're down to get the you-know-what on. I love this team, even if they lose tonight against Iowa State. Here's what I want. Play good in March. We've now moved to a new era of Auburn basketball where I care about March now. That's it. I really don't care about Maui, all right? That Maui Owie, that Pineapple Express, whatever. I don't care if we got to get in fights on planes or if there's snakes on a plane. Just beat the blue-haired protesters from Yale. That's all
Yale's
I'm asking.
coming now. Yale's coming.
Good. Bring them on. I want them now. Come here. I'm the captain
Appreciate
now.
it, Jake. Thanks for calling, man.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, let's go to Brian in Nebraska. What's going on, Brian?
Oh, no.
Fellas, it was a great weekend. The Baylor basketball.
Big one.
Nebraska basketball beat Creighton on Friday.
That was a big
the
one.
Huskers obviously beat Wisconsin for the first time in like 10 years. Colorado lost. Women's volleyball swept number 6 Wisconsin. And Trev Alberts went down thanks to Auburn.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this. Is Dana Holgorsen the most popular guy in the state of Nebraska right now or what?
Oh, 100%. After his first press conference and he was really like to the point and brash, everybody loved him. He was a hit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously when you can't score, 13 points in a game prior and you put up 44, you're going to get some attention.
How is the pressure on Matt right now? Just finger on the pulse. What has to happen next year, you think, for him not to be on the hot seat the year following that? Not that he would get fired next year, but what do you think has to happen?
I don't think it needs to be anything crazy. Just, another win or two on what he's doing now. If he ends at 7-5, 9-3 is probably the floor, I would assume. But I don't think it needs to be crazy. Pressure was pretty hot after Indiana, and then after UCLA got pretty hot too, but it seems to be revitalized now.
Well, how long will Dana be there?
It's just, that's what I'm saying. Winning great is always great if you're a head coach, but I mean, it's never just too awesome to bring in a guy and it's all of a sudden everything changes and everything starts looking better. It's like, hey, I need you to be my wingman. I'm gonna go talk to this girl, whatever I say, just roll with me. You're in a bar. Next thing you're talking to this girl and your buddy starts spitting absolute game to her.
Yeah, she's
next thing you know, they're in an Uber going home together.
Yeah, and you're crying.
Yeah, again.
Placing bets.
Yeah.
Again.
I mean, I don't know, because like earlier in the year, and obviously the competition's different, but it looked a lot smoother earlier in the year, and then it got real clunky in the middle. And I don't know if obviously Dana's a freaking wizard at this stuff, but maybe it was a fresh set of eyes to kind of see it differently.
Well, we're going to see it play out. Like, we're at the end of the year, but we're going to see it play out a little bit more, and then, kind of find out what options are available for Dana Holgorsen after. But it's I'm glad you guys finally got a reprieve from some of the darkness.
Thanks, Brian.
Nebraska the past couple weeks.
Call in again soon.
Got a stat up on the TV real quick, guys. Sorry. The amount of practices they missed compared to Wisconsin in their drought was 105.
Wow. What? That's insane.
That's wild. Great call, man.
Thanks, Brian. All right, let's go to Will in New Jersey. What's going on, Will?
What's up, boys?
What's up, Will?
All right, I'm going to be quick. I'm rooting for A&M because my terrible ex-girlfriend and her 2 ogre best friends went to Texas, and they can all rot in hell.
Did you say ogre?
Also, yeah. Absolute ogres. I can only imagine they are like Mopstick Stacy's absolute just worst human beings on the planet. Moving on. Saquon Barkley had like the best game in American history. The Giants released Daniel Jones. Are the Giants the biggest embarrassment in all of them?
I don't know. Justine, your thoughts?
They're not great. We're just looking for a first-round draft pick at this point, so we're doing really good at that.
The real question is, when it comes to the Giants, you taking Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders?
Yeah, that's the question.
Well, I had to play against Saquon. Let's see what
he had. What?
255. He had 255 on the ground.
52.7 in fantasy.
Oh,
52 burger. Wow.
It's a lot of people happy.
Luckily,
like Giants right now, poverty. Raiders, poverty. There's a lot of
49ers.
Like
poverty.
The Cowboys were poverty.
Diego
I don't know if
poverty.
anybody watched that game, but that game was a walking heart attack.
Yeah,
that's one of the craziest football games I've ever seen in my life.
With Washington,
the craziest football.
No, did you see the Bears Vikings?
Yeah, the Vikings defense and fantasy. Thanks for showing up.
No, it's showing up the last 35 seconds of that game. Oh, my God.
The NFL was wild.
Appreciate it,
Great
Will.
call.
Call in after the Texas A&M game. All right, let's go to Dane in Ohio. Dane, what's up?
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm a first-time listener.
Nice, welcome to it.
Numbers up. Yeah, thanks. So I just had a quick question. I kind of want to get your guys' thoughts. So Brian Kelly, LSU's head coach, obviously, just had a press conference, and he was making it sound very confident that he was going to go deep into the portal. And he mentioned that he would not be surprised if LSU had the biggest portal class coming out of the offseason. Just kind of want to know what you guys' thoughts are about that. Do you think he's actually going to do it?
You better.
You have to.
Yeah, I don't know if growing your own food is the answer for this next year. I just, now that you have that whatever the $6 million or $4 million they were going to play Bryce Underwood, now you have that back in your pocket. I think that makes you an even bigger player in the transfer portal. But make no mistake, the question I have as a quarterback, what is Nuss going to do? Because if Nuss is going to come back, I think you should want Nuss back. Do you want Nuss back, Dane?
Of course, I would love to have Nuss back. But if that doesn't happen, we do have Colin Hurley coming off the bench, who did reclassify. He was in the same class as Bryce Underwood. He was but
that's an unknown, Dane. You're just hoping. And again, he could come in and be, one of Hell's Angels and just absolutely ball. But I don't know if Brian Kelly's willing to take that risk, right? If Nuss isn't gone. But if Nuss stays, let's just run that out. If it was me, okay, regardless of how many high-ranked recruits we sign, how many defensive linemen can I go get with $6 million? How many? How many can I go get? I'm going to go get as many as humanly possible. That's what needs to be fixed. And if Nuss comes back, I know you're losing some on the offensive line. Maybe you split it 3 mil defensive line, 3 mil offensive line. I'm not 100% sure, but that would be me in the portal. That's exactly what I would be doing.
Yeah, along with getting some safeties as well.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Great
Thanks,
call.
Dave.
I don't think we need to talk about anything. I get the O-line a little bit. We can talk about it. But LSU needs to fix their defense. It's been a problem for a while. Nussmeier's not the problem.
And Blake Baker can coach.
Yeah, you had Jaden Daniels and couldn't win the national championship with him because your defense was that bad. LSU used to be built on having a good defense and running the football. Let's go back to having absolute savages running around on defense. That's what I would do.
All right, let's go to Joey in Georgia. What's up, Joey?
Hey, Joey.
You can do it, Joey.
Hello, guys.
What's up, man?
What's up, man?
Hey, not much. Hey.
Hold on, you're kind of breaking up. Start over.
Oh, no. Am I good now?
You're good now. You're good now. Go ahead.
Okay. Hey, if Auburn gets a big win this weekend, it's crucial to me because I think we can get the recruits in early practice, right?
Yep.
And then it also definitely 100% knock. Am I there? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. It'll definitely knock Alabama's playoff hopes for sure out of the tops, right? Because that'd be 4 losses and 2 bad losses.
Yeah,
right?
well, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, y'all go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, to me, that would be massive because if you look, it's going to be, it would knock Alabama out of the playoffs, yes. But Auburn was never winning the SEC this year. This year was supposed to be the bridge year to prove to recruits that Auburn could win big games on the field. That's why that game against A&M was so big. All they needed was one. You just needed one. So Hugh Freeze could walk in the living room of, you notice how you're starting to see all these crystal balls come in on Naheem Offord, right? It's amazing now you see that Deuce Knight is 100% locked in with Auburn, right? This is a week-to-week thing. Winning that game allows Hugh Freeze to walk into a living room and say, listen, there's one of them. I told you we were going to do it. We got this beautiful palace of a building. We've got this huge fan base, this incredible home field advantage. Recruits need to see you do it on the field before they're going to believe. I call it the fake boob rule. If I can touch them, they're real. And you can touch that win. You could reach out and touch that win. It mattered at Auburn, for Auburn at home. You're going to see Offord come over. I think you're going to see Chroma come over. And I don't think they're done yet. That's what Auburn needed. But you go beat Bama? Now we're talking legitimate chance at the number 1 recruiting class in the country.
And number 1. What a beautiful position you're in right now. And I always go back to, what's his name, Alfred? What Alfred said on the Batman movie?
Alfred.
Yeah. Some men aren't looking for anything logical like money. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned with, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn. And right now, Auburn is in position to let the world burn. Go light it on fire.
I love it. Thank you, Joey.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Joey.
it, man. All right, last caller of the day. Let's go to Tyler in Florida. What's going on, Tyler?
Hey, guys. How we doing?
What's up, man?
First, before I get to my point, Jack, I got a bone to pick with you from yesterday's recap show. How dare you disparage cranberry sauce?
Oh, yeah. Look,
Tyler,
it's an awful.
It's disrespectful.
No, cranberry sauce is an awful product, and I will die on that hill.
I'm going to be like Larry Allen on Thanksgiving protecting the cranberry sauce.
I'm Team Jake on this one.
It's disgusting.
Exactly
This guy likes candy corn. You can't trust him.
Yes, I do.
God,
I
Tyler.
kind of like candy corn, too. I'm not going to lie.
So this is a Mexican
yeah.
standoff.
Yeah,
Like the
no,
middle of the SEC.
yeah. Hold on. FBI, we got him.
I was going to call about Miami defense yesterday, last week. Saturday showed up. Granted, I get it. It was Wake Forest, but that has never stopped our defense before from getting up 475 yards. So
Good point.
I've been ragging on them. All year, so I figured I'd give them a shout out. That they actually
Great cover.
What about Syracuse, man?
Yeah,
Y'all gonna beat Syracuse on the road or what?
I was in a good mood, and now you had to bring up Syracuse.
Man.
If y'all can't go beat Syracuse
Take
on the
the
road,
over.
man.
Yo, take the over. The over's been took.
Hey, Cal McCord's balling.
Yeah, he
is.
passed Cam Ward for the passing yards leader.
Last team with the ball wins. I don't know. I've watched a couple of their games. Their defense doesn't terrify me, but our offense here recently has shown signs of just, hey, we don't feel like scoring anymore all of a sudden.
67 and a half.
We'll go in some lulls.
Inside.
So, I don't know. It should be interesting.
It is, Tyler.
Every Miami game is. Trust me.
Them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
it's
should win.
because if you lose this one, it's a season over.
Yeah, it comes down to this game. I mean,
Yeah.
and like David has brought up so many times, if not this, when's it ever going to happen? I mean, good Lord, with the talent we got. Well, guys, y'all have a great Thanksgiving.
All right,
too,
Tyler,
man.
you as well. All right, great calls today. Going to get to the chat and the donos, but first, let's talk about responsibility. You want a multivitamin that's packed with 33 key ingredients. All right, it helps sharpen your immune system, supports your brain, and keeps your heart and muscles strong. Our diets, especially this week, just throw them out. We're going to fry turkey, sweet potato casserole, all types of casseroles, delicious goodies.
Say it.
Now, I'm not going to say cranberry sauce. It's the devil, mama. But if you want to make sure you are putting yourself as a man, all right, being the most responsible you can from a health standpoint, you need to take advantage of the Black Friday sale and get 60% off your order of these delicious, minty-flavored multivitamins. All right, it's a Daily Wire's venture company, too, so it's made right here in the good old USA. It's not from Kirkmenistan or Turkmenistan or Coneministan. Nobody ever goes there anymore.
No one's allowed there.
Yeah, it's straight up here in the USA. Like I said, it's got 33 key ingredients that's fantastic for you. We wouldn't endorse it if we didn't take it or didn't believe in it. So just head over to responsibleman.com. Use code BOOSTER at checkout. But hurry, this deal won't last long. Remember, gentlemen, a strong America needs strong men. And strong men start with Responsible Man. That's responsibleman.com. Use that code BOOSTER for 60% off of a 100% healthy decision. All right, let's go to bets. Tonight, the Ravens, the Harbaugh brother battle.
Yes.
I'm going to take the older brother. Why? Because they're the best, regardless of what that thing with the beard says over there.
Okay.
Ravens, -2.5. That's going off at -112. And then I'm going to Hardwood. North Texas, Oregon State, under 127.5. Woo! Watch North Texas play offense and defense. Slow, miss, steal, foul. Under 127.5.
I like it. I cannot wait for the Hard Bowl tonight. Give me the Chargers +3 -127,
right.
Buying up that half point right there.
Michigan.
And then largest lead, do what? Quiet. Largest lead under 13.5 +110.
All right. I love it, Dave. I
Dude
need
said
this
what?
to happen, okay? I need this to happen for me in fantasy, and I need it bad, okay? I have Derrick Henry and Lamar in my fantasy. Give me Derrick Henry, 2+ touchdowns. That's going off at +250. And Lamar Jackson, 2+ touchdowns, +1,700. So basically, I need both these guys to score every touchdown. And I need it to be a high-scoring game.
This can't be throws, right? He's got to run that in or catch a pass, right?
Yeah.
I was about to say, Lamar Jackson,
That wouldn't be
plus
plus
touchdowns at
1,700.
+1,700. Hold on. Yeah, let me put the 401k on it.
Hey, believe.
All right, Ace, Chargers, Ravens, over 50.5 at -123. And Justin Herbert, 2+ passing touchdowns at -125. Man, there's some great There's just sport. This may be one of the few nights where I have the YouTube TV multi-view with different sports.
I'm going to see the new Gladiator tonight.
Report back.
Yeah. I heard it sucks.
I haven't heard good things about it, I'm going to be honest. All right, let's get into donations. If you donated today, guys, thank you so much. We really appreciate it on this side. We're going to start with a $2 donation from Troy. Appreciate it, Troy. What's your thoughts on the hit on Shedeur Sanders?
I thought it was roughing the passer. I don't know how that's not roughing the passer. The one where he got his legs taken out?
All the stuff that gets called.
That's
not called. But then, and the Shiloh Sanders, too, I thought that they called targeting and took it back. I thought that was targeting.
Yeah, like you hit it Shedeur late. That's roughing the passer. You hit him in the leg. Yeah. You did, like, if there was a clinic tape on what roughing the passer is, or like multiple elements of roughing the passer in the same play, it was that one. The only thing you didn't do was take out a gun and shoot him. Like that, I was shocked.
Let's get our $5 donation from Binks. Appreciate it, Binks. Why do my Pitt Panthers have to kick me in the groin on all fronts? Blown out by UL on Saturday and can't rebound on Sunday. I guess we're just a volleyball school now.
Your boy picked Wisconsin in the Sunday Six to win that game, and it did not look pretty early. Look, Pitt's overachieved, I think, this year from a football standpoint. Holstein's a problem going forward. I know he got beat up. I wouldn't be worried about Pitt football.
$5 donation from WC says Illinois are going to kick the Fighting Dry Humpers' butt this weekend at the friendly confines. # Go Illinois.
We'll see. Nice win for him last week.
$5 donation from Justin Callaway. Brother, you didn't put anything under, but we appreciate the donation. $5 donation from David. Appreciate it, David. Aside from FSU, has there been a bigger disappointment than Oklahoma State?
No.
I just saw their 3-8. I don't think anybody saw that coming.
That's got to be the two, right? Them and then Ole Miss would be third for me, but in a different way. Not because it just fell apart, but it fell apart enough.
I had Auburn on that list before this past weekend.
Yeah. Let's go to $5 donation from JD. Appreciate it when Auburn rolls into T-Town and run through the cousin lovers like bad gas station food. Is DeBoer on the hot seat in 25? And I'm keeping all these donations PG, by the way. But I appreciate the donation.
You can't go 8-4.
Look, if you
8-4 and lose to Auburn,
you've
already lost. You've already lost 3. Buddy.
Like, listen, nobody owes you anything. That's what I was talking about, the equity that Nick Saban had built up, where he could afford to struggle or lose to Auburn in a kick 6. Kalen DeBoer hadn't won nothing in Alabama. They don't care about what Kalen DeBoer did at Washington. That's what I was trying to tell everybody. They're like, oh, Kalen DeBoer is 112-6. They don't care. There's not one Alabama fan that'll be like, oh, wait a minute. He's 112-7 at Washington? Oh, losing the Iron Bowl year 1 doesn't matter at all. Not making the SEC championship or a 12-team college football playoff. He was 112-7 in Washington. That's all I needed to know.
$2 donation from JH. What's up, man? Aggies aren't playing UT. They're playing Texas, baby.
Yep, I get it, Tennessee fans.
$5 donation from Will. Appreciate it, Will. Texas A&M University is more like the TMU version of UT. I can go with that. $5 donation from 2 Crains, 1 Cone. If A&M wins and Vandy beats Tennessee, this could get real crazy. Go Irish. Jake still owes me merch.
If A&M wins and Vanderbilt beats Tennessee, South Carolina's in, right? Or South Carolina has legitimate claim to be in if they beat Clemson. And Clemson has legitimate claim to be in if they beat South Carolina. My brain can't even do that math right now in my head. I just can't.
$10 donation from Welcome to Heaven. He says, every year my Aggies find new ways to hurt me. A light at the end of the tunnel is just burning fires of hellish mediocrity. Every year is just another disappointing season for Texas A&M, a.k.a. Texas 8-4.
It could all be fixed. 4 quarters away. The Magic Wand game. You win this one, no more jokes. No more, they'll never do it. That's why we opened the show the way we opened it.
$5 donation from Chad. Appreciate it, Chad. Boomer Sooner, boys. Best game I've been at live. Auburn got the dub as well. Cone, Tulane, Michigan, neutral field. Who wins? Ha ha. Just kidding. All love.
Michigan. Michigan would beat Oklahoma, too. Actually, I'll do you one better. I think Michigan would beat whoever the champion is in the Big 12, but you don't see me sitting here crying that they should get in the playoff, do you? Nope. No, because they have no business being there.
Win, loss, record matters.
$10 donation from Jackson Harrison. He says, what do y'all think about what DeMarcus Ridiculous said in his interview?
DeMarcus Riddick?
Yeah.
Why? He said, he basically said Ryan Williams isn't a big-time player, and he's never going to lose to Bama while you're here. I'm glad you think that. Just don't say that.
I'm fine with the first part of it.
I love it.
I'm fine with the first part of it.
I just don't.
I hope he says something each day. Like, that's his Monday statement.
Like, if he was a quarterback.
His Tuesday statement should be Ryan Williams is a big-time player. I don't think I'll ever beat Bama while I'm here.
If he was a quarterback and he was young, I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind it. I just don't know how much you can change. I mean, you can do only so much.
At linebacker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
$5 donation from JT. Appreciate it. The Clemson game this weekend is a big game for Wes Goodwin at Clemson more than Beamer or Sweeney.
I agree with that.
$2 donation from Tim Milk. Appreciate it, dude. $5 donation from Jackson. Appreciate it. He said, love the show, guys. Keep it going. You have a new fan here. I believe that's all the donations for today. Guys, really appreciate it. Let's get to this poll. Is this Texas A&M's biggest game ever? Yes.
If I hear another person, someone on social media was like, no, the 1940 game. Like, are you kidding me, dude? You mean we were making bullets to send over to England to help them fight the Nazis? Nobody cares about 1940. Nobody cares about 1993. They don't. They don't care. Now is what matters.
So then you can't say ever.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, what's the question? What's that?
Mine is ever.
Yeah, well.
That was the question, right? I'm going to say
Texas
yes.
A&M's biggest game ever.
I'm going to say yes, 64%.
Well, now knowing that 1940 was a great year, I'll say no, 51%.
Yes.
I thought you loved their year.
76%.
Yeah.
And no.
All you talk about is that 1940 year.
It was incredible. And don't get me started on the 1936 Tennessee.
We had another donation
give up
from
a touchdown.
$2 donation from Heaven. He says, shut up, Jake. Don't give me hope, man.
Look, y'all gave y'all self-hope, and that's more than y'all have had at this time of year in a long time.
Your name can't be welcome to heaven and talk about don't give me hope.
Yeah, but they also say don't walk into the light. All right, we appreciate you guys. Make sure you check out Black Rifle Coffee, Good Ranchers Responsible Man. We're going to preview the Iron Bowl tomorrow, Georgia Tech, Ohio State, Michigan, Lions and Tigers and Bears, oh my. And like the chances of this not being the greatest year of college football I can remember, we're going. I'm
on rivalry?
Linemen.
Man.
Let me see your bucket step.
Yeah, I will. I'll bucket step over there and slap the hell out of you.